Today we live in an unpredictable environment and news races around the world at breakneck speed.
It's a noble profession.
Why do you keep us out?
We want to keep you safe.
We're war correspondents.
My show brings you the latest news and top newsmakers.
Can you tell me exactly what's happening right now?
If we don't learn from some of the things in our past, then we're due to repeat them.
We also dive below the headlines.
If we are not blinded by hate, we can teach others humanity.
What does it feel like to be slapped with a 50% tariff? That's not a negotiation, Ambassador.
Any questions?
CNN, what were you thinking when I was trying to get the truth out of you and you were obfuscating?
Well, I thought that actually you saw the contradiction.
It's crucial we make sense of what's happening.
Why do you want your country's future to be decided by US military intervention?
And fully understand what's at stake.
If you can double down on that, amen.
Amanpour, weekdays on CNN.
These days, slowing down is the ultimate indulgence, and this train offers a rare opportunity to do just that. The Venice Simplon Orient Express is probably one of the most luxurious trains in the whole world.
These storied carriages, all built between 1926 and 1949, once carried royalty, spies, revolutionaries and film stars across Europe's grand capitals. Each carriage has a story, and some are more colourful than others. Take dining car 4141. Decorated by the legendary René Lalique, it's a glittering ode to Art Deco glamour. Then there's sleeping car 3425, which once helped Romania's King Carol II make a dramatic escape with his mistress. While sleeping car 3544 enjoyed a rather different chapter, when it was repurposed as a brothel by a French official during World War II. Talk about a change of service. And perhaps the most famous of them all, car 3309. Trapped in a snowdrift near Istanbul, it inspired Agatha Christie's Murder on the Orient Express. Adapted countless times, always featuring at least one suspicious dinner guest.
I'm Becky Anderson, 200 meters above the city of Dubai here in the UAE, and this is CNN.
In a divided America,
Where do I fit?
You tell me, ask your partner.
Abby Phillip brings all sides to the table.
Can you name one thing you'd do different?
The hypocrisy is so rank, folks at home. Classes in session.
To talk about the issues,
Congresswoman, it is false. The answer is zero.
the policies,
What is the Democratic Party about? Can you answer that question?
and the biggest debates to wrap up your day.
I hear what you're saying Trump believes in, but do you think it's a good idea?
News Night with Abby Phillip, Tuesday through Saturday on CNN.
Every day we take a step back to look at the big picture, from decisions made in Washington to the ripple effects across Asia, Europe, and beyond. We follow the story as it unfolds and hear every voice to make sure the information is clear, fair, and relevant to you. In a world packed with noise, facts matter. That's what we do here. This is The Brief.
I'm Gabriela Frias in Mexico City, and this is CNN.
Closing bell ringing on Wall Street. And what an hour the last hour has been. The Dow rallies after President Trump calls off the European tariffs over Greenland. Hit the gavel, bring trading to a close, and the one, and the two, and the 1, 2, 3. You can see that enormous rally up a spike of green. That was when we got the announcement that the tariffs were off, that a framework had been done, because those are the markets and these are the main events of the day. President Trump said he's formed a framework of a future deal on Greenland after meeting with the NATO Secretary General. The former NATO Sec Gen argues the bloc is not just good for Europe, but the United States as well. You're going to hear Stoltenberg on this programme tonight. And the Dutch Prime Minister tells me tonight Europe has to create a strong foothold for itself. Yep, we are live in Davos on Wednesday. It's January the 21st. I'm Richard Quest. And of of course, I mean business. Good evening. We begin tonight with President Trump saying he has reached a framework for a deal over Greenland. Mr. Trump posted on Truth Social that a breakthrough came during a meeting with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte. As a result, Mr. Trump's dropped his threat to impose tariffs on European allies starting next month. And he struck a much different tone during his speech at the World Economic Forum. Now then, he rehashed many of his complaints about Europe, once again expressing doubts that NATO allies would actually defend the US. To move forward a few hours, now he's praising the work of the alliance.
It's a great security, great national and international security. It's a deal that people jumped at. Really fantastic for the USA. Gets everything we wanted, including especially real national security and international security.
How so? Can you give us some details, please?
Well, the deal is going to be put out pretty soon. I mean, we'll see. It's right now a little bit in progress, but pretty far along. It gets us everything we needed to get.
Well, the How will you ratify it, Mr. President?
Say it?
What did Mark Rutte say?
Well, he's a great leader. I think he's fantastic. The Secretary General was representing the other side, which is really us too, because, you know, we're a very important member of NATO. I've done a lot for NATO. And it's really nice. I mean, it's a deal that everybody's very happy with.
Does it still include you? Does it still include the United States having ownership of Greenland like you've said you wanted?
It's a long-term deal. It's the ultimate long-term deal. And I think it puts everybody in a really good position, especially as it pertains to security and minerals and everything else.
Excessive security and minerals and everything else. Ravi Agarwal is with us, the editor-in-chief of Foreign Policy. Ravi, I mean, what a
whiplash.
Whiplash, absolutely. Early in the afternoon, it has to be ownership. Leasing is not enough. Tonight, specifically asked about ownership, and he says it's a long-term deal, an infinite deal.
He's trolling us. I don't know how else to put it. I mean, if you go back to that speech today, this was one of the most anticipated speeches I can remember at Davos. Thousands of people trying to get in. And he basically, you know, ever the performer, he talked about everything but Greenland. And then when he finally did, he made up facts about the history of NATO and the fact that, of course, America could have its bases in Greenland. It could do all the things he wanted to do without ownership. And yet he made clear that that was very important to him. And then we get this Truth Social post.
All right, we get the Truth Social post, and earlier I was in the Congress Centre with Mark, I saw Mark Rutte on the phone, and then we chased him down the corridor. We've got some video of the moment where you see myself, Mark Rutte, and a couple of other journalists. Here we go. There's Mark Rutte coming out. And although you can't really hear very clearly what he's saying, but in this he agrees that... He says it's a very good deal, it's a framework of a deal, but he tells us no more than that.
We got no details at all. I mean, I was actually standing not too far from Rutte when he was speaking to someone else on the phone, and I overheard him say, yeah, I think it's a good deal, but no details from any party as to what that means. Look, it could be that we're back to the status quo, where, of course, Denmark and Greenland is a part of NATO, and they all have to cooperate on what is a real threat from Russia and China as the ice melts around Denmark and Greenland. But the question is, Trump has made very clear publicly that he wants to own this, not once, many times.
But, on this thing, Rutte wouldn't be talking in these terms if sovereignty was in question. He has no authority to do that. He would be the last person to. So therefore, we're talking about a much greater Arctic arrangement, which is what they all want. And it sounds like this, the fudge is more for less, in a sense, or less for more, whichever way you want to put it.
I mean, but remember, a lot of this is just theater. I mean, so we know that Trump likes to sell a deal, both domestically at home to his side and then globally as well. He likes to appear to be a winner. And I mean, all of us have now become, of course, Trump pop psychologists. But you're right in that he's gotten something. We just don't know what exactly it is. Or maybe he's gotten what America always had, which is the ability to build more bases in Greenland and the ability to station more troops there.
Good to see you, sir. I'm grateful to have you with us tonight. Thanks very much, Ravi.
Always a pleasure.
I mean, as a Davos goes, these are fairly extraordinary events. Thank you for joining us. Thank you very much indeed. Now, to Washington now, and Kevin Liptak is in Washington joining me. Kevin, we don't know the details. We do know the showmanship nature of it. We do know what was... Well, you tell me how you interpret the events of the last few hours.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there was no way that this bid for Greenland was going to end without some sort of signing ceremony. And that seems to be where all of this is headed. You know, we don't know what Trump is going to sign, but it seems almost certain that he will be coming out, you know, in the next couple of weeks or the next couple of months, very eager to tout this accomplishment that he thinks that he has achieved in Greenland. But I think it was perhaps the most notable moment of the entire day so far was that, you know, 4-second pause when Caitlin Collins asked him whether this was going to include ownership of Greenland, and he had to stop and think about what he was going to say. And all he could come up was that this was going to be a long-term deal. And I think it's pretty evident that the president has come to some sort of arrangement that will allow him to tout having accomplished something, but is clearly not the U.S. owning Greenland, which makes you wonder what the whole point of this, you know, weeks-long push, what this churlish speech to Davos earlier today, what it was all intended to do. You know, the president was pushing on an open door in a lot of ways. Greenland said that the U.S. was welcome to put more bases there, as their current existing treaty allowed them to do. And I think you cannot underestimate the role that the markets were playing in all of this. Clearly, the president mentioned that in his speech today, and obviously the markets reacted very positively to when he came out and said that he had this framework deal. And it seems as if the president finally came to the moment of recognition that an off-ramp was necessary.
Kevin, the difficulty in terms of, I mean, Ravi was suggesting the same thing, that we could end up in the position, well, yes, so much, we got exactly what we got, and we could have got it in the first place without all the angst and anxiety. But the White House will say it was necessary to get, or to go through this process to get this what might look like a wider deal for more Arctic involvement.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that there may be some truth to that. The president seems to have directed attention on security in the Arctic in a way that did not exist, at least in the collective mind, as it did previously. You know, there was an interesting point in a statement from NATO spokesman that I just got in the last 10 minutes or so. It clearly didn't offer any details of what the framework consists of, but it had an interesting line when it says negotiations between Denmark, Greenland, and the United States will go forward aimed at ensuring that Russia and China never gain a foothold economically or militarily in Greenland. And I think that just goes to the point that the president has been trying to make, which is that if the U.S. doesn't own Greenland, that Beijing and Moscow will gain a foothold there. One off-ramp that had been described to me by officials sort of quietly over the last several days was some sort of enhanced treaty that includes specific provisions that would preclude China and Russia from involving themselves in Greenland. And so if that is all where this is headed, I think this statement seems to suggest it might be.
Kevin Liptak in Washington. Kevin, I'm grateful. Thank you. The former head of NATO is telling me that the alliance has given the United States a lot, despite President Trump's claims of getting nothing. Jens Stoltenberg, who is, of course, now the finance minister of Norway, he stepped down as NATO Secretary General at the end of 2024. I spoke to the minister before news of the deal on Greenland. He told me his reaction to Donald Trump's remarks, the rather polemic speech that was given today.
Of course, that is an important message, because up to now many were afraid that he actually was going to threaten to use force to acquire Greenland. At the same time, I think it's very important to convey the same message as Norway, as many others have done for a long time now. That is that Greenland is part of the Kingdom of Denmark, and borders and territorial integrity should be respected by all countries, including, of course, all NATO allies and the United States.
Right, and the difficulty now is, having made that important statement, the President of the US spent the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes saying, we want Greenland, we need Greenland, NATO's never given us anything, NATO needs to give us Greenland.
My most important message on that is that NATO has given the United States a lot. NATO has given for all these decades since 1949 enhanced security. NATO is good for Europe, but NATO is also good for the United States. The only time we have invoked Article 5 was after an attack on the United States, 9/11. And of course the US is big, 25% of the world's GDP. But together with friends and allies, it's 50% of the world's global economy and 50% of the military might. So NATO makes also the United States stronger and safer.
Right, so having had many roles, I just want to find it, the President of the US published the text of text between himself and the Prime Minister. Now everybody seems to be putting out. How difficult is it for office holders like yourselves if somebody starts publishing your private texts and messages?
Of course, it becomes much more difficult to communicate in that way, or at least when you communicate with text messages, you need to be prepared that it may become public. I think that to text is a very useful way of communicating, but of course, when they get published, then be more careful.
This question of European economies, the economies of Europe are doing well. Christine Lagarde said that here. Norway is doing well. Norway is in a uniquely privileged position because of this vast sovereign fund that you have. Are you happy with where you are?
Well, there are challenges also for the Norwegian economy. We have an aging population. We need to finance that with more pensions and more elderly care. But compared to many other countries, we are in a good position. Partly or mainly actually because a very large portion of the Norwegian people are working, and that adds to our growth. But also because of we have the Sovereign Wealth Fund. But the Sovereign Wealth Fund is actually something the Norwegian people created, because I have been Minister of Finance before, back in 1996. And at the beginning of that year, we had zero money in the Sovereign Wealth Fund. And then we decided to save all the revenues and only use the financial return. And by doing that, we have now been able to build a big fund by political decisions taken by Norwegians.
How difficult is it to stand firm when everybody wants to dip in and everybody can always find an excuse? Oh no, Minister, just this year, just 0.5%. It's pensions, pensions, hospitals.
It is difficult, and of course for most countries it's difficult to spend money you don't have.
You've got it!
The problem for us is to not spend money we have. But the message is that the oil wealth belongs to many generations. Red.
He's telegraphing a message. The minister's clear.
But then, this is about what creates hope.
What gives you hope?
And I will join those who said history, because because actually, if you look back, things are moving in the right direction. I just was together with Bill Gates in a panel where we addressed global health, and child mortality has gone down over the last decades. Life expectancy has gone up. More people can read and write than ever before. So if you look at some of those fundamental values or indicators of new and progress, the world is still moving forward.
As you can see, the board is filling up what gives you hope, and more and more we had to change the top of it because things were getting a bit messy, and I'm sure it'll get more messy as we carry on tonight. We're covering breaking news of the framework deal over Greenland. We'll be in Nuuk after the break. We'll talk more about it. Questions Business, live on a very busy night in Davos.
Tomorrow Transform, in association with NX Nippon Express.
We really do believe that what we're doing is very important. We've developed an alternative technology to diesel generators. Basically, what we do is we take available fuels And like LPG, we convert that to hydrogen and then the hydrogen to electricity in the fuel cell. What that means and why that's important is that AHINA now has a system which can take or make use of the fuel cell technology, the lower emission, the low noise, the better efficiency, and we can deploy that anywhere in the world using available fuel infrastructure. That now makes fuel cells a real possibility and a real product that can be used anywhere in the world. And you don't have to rely on having the hydrogen infrastructure there first.
India is rising as a global powerhouse. Its growth fueled by pathways built by NX, providing logistic solutions to the automotive industry and supporting India's semiconductor evolution. Every step of the way, unlocking the smooth flow of goods. Real-time insights anticipate what is needed, ensuring speed and accuracy. Powered by smart systems. A strong commitment to excellence. And our network that expands across the region. Moving India forward. We find the way. Nippon Express.
Perfect shot become even greater.
He's played that magnificently. That's better.
And it is bang on cue.
Great example of exactly why he is the player that he is.
Trust me, I'm making a name.
Oh, there you go again. Absolutely fearless.
Brilliant. Christmas business from Davos. Back to our top story. President Trump says he has formed a framework for a future deal on Greenland, and the NATO Secretary General, it follows the NATO Secretary General meeting here in Davos, and the Secretary General agrees with what was said, that a deal has been put together and further negotiations will take place. As a result, Mr. Trump said he would no longer impose new tariffs on European nations opposed to his ambitions, and there was a sharp rally on the market with the Dow up several hundred points. During an earlier speech in Davos, Mr. Trump backed down using force to acquire Greenland, though he said he could envision paying for it. Edgar Rinkovic is the president of Latvia. Mr. President, thank you, sir. I know that you are hearing this as fast as we are, but what do you make of what you're hearing tonight?
I think it's good news, because that's something that we were advocating for from the beginning of the whole issue, that everything that is related to the security of Greenland should be dealt through NATO, through collective defense efforts, and apparently I believe that that framework includes most probably more military engagement of NATO troops. We are sometimes talking about so-called Arctic Sentry. Now we have the Baltic Sentry, we have the Eastern Sentry, those missions that are guarding the eastern flank. Maybe that is something that is now building up. The readout will be coming tomorrow.
Right, but on this core point of the significance of the Arctic, one might take issue with President Trump's methods and phraseology, but there does seem to be an acceptance of the importance of strengthening the Arctic security.
Yes, absolutely. And you know, there is quite a remarkable change, because 6-7 years ago we were not talking so much about Arctic security. There were some discussions, but we were not looking at this from the angle of guarding collective, not only eastern security, but now also northern security. So this is remarkable change, but I think that this is the right time to talk about this challenge as well.
Are you disappointed that there wasn't more progress made on Ukraine here at Davos? The president basically, the US president basically saying that, you know, it's nothing to do with us. It's a long way away. We're helping out with NATO, but it's really nothing to do with us. Now, this sort of lack of engagement at the moment could lead to a greater push by Russia.
I think that to some extent we have seen that already in the past.
Really?
We had, remember, we had some strikes against Iran, we had some other things happening, and then the focus from Ukraine shifted, but then it came back. And yes, indeed, we were all, let's say, talking about Greenland, we were talking about the changing or disappearing old world order and the new world order emerging. But I do believe that already from tomorrow, the Ukraine is going to be back, and all the issues that are related to security guarantees, territorial issues will be discussed again.
The question of disinformation, of Russian cyber activity, it sounds the stuff of spy movies, but you're telling me that it is real, and your citizens are feeling it.
Well, you know, we have acts of sabotage, we have acts of espionage, we have disinformation campaigns through social media.
Really?
These are things that we consider as almost business as usual, but of course it's not a business as usual. And we are in the midst of hybrid warfare, especially in the eastern flank.
Right, well, come over, a bit of other type. Come over to join me over here, sir. Choose your colour. Oops. I'll bet. Bending down in the cold weather. It's not easy. Choose your colour.
The blue one.
The blue one. Everyone's going blue. What gives you hope? You can circle join, or you can write something new on the board yourself. So what gives you hope?
I would choose the word calm.
Oh, calm.
Whatever situations we have, we always need to keep calm and carry on.
Keep calm. Good to see you, sir. I'm very grateful. Keep calm and carry on. Thank you. The President of Latvia. Now, going to Nick Robertson, joining us from Nuuk in Greenland. I imagine the entire place is a flutter and a swirl tonight with what this framework might be. But I guess we can say, knowing that Mark Rutte is involved, it doesn't involve sovereignty.
We can't say that, and that's the question that people here want to know about most. They want to know that detail. But Richard, it feels very much for me, like President Trump with the many deals that he's talked about, that he's achieved. You know, we go back to the Gaza deal in September, the end of September, there was a Gaza deal. But there were so many questions and loose ends and threads, and some of those were only answered just a couple of days ago. So it does feel as if there's in principle agreement, so typical of how President Trump does these sorts of things, in principle agreement about how to go forward, but still a long way from a deal, therefore still a long way from the final details of it. And these are the questions that are being asked here. Sense of relief that the military threat appears to have been taken off the table, although a little bit of, can we really trust the president on that? Change his mind. So when the Prime Minister gives a press conference here tomorrow, I think people are going to be asking all those questions. What do you know about the details? And the politicians I've talked to this evening have been telling me, we don't know the details. I feel that's where we're at, Richard.
The idea, though, I mean, you're in one part of Greenland and the place is vast, but the phraseology of the Truth Social post talks about a much entire Arctic, talks about a much wider area or some sort of agreement that's being reached. This is deeply inhospitable territory, however friendly and hospitable the people may be.
Look, I think this very much gets to what the Danish Foreign Minister and the Greenlandic Foreign Minister had in their discussions with the Vice President and the Secretary of State in the White House last week, that there is a bigger, broader Arctic issue that we both agree on. The Arctic is massive. Russia is more than 1,000 miles away from here, many, more than probably 1,500 from where we stand on this side of Greenland. It is along the coast of Russia that those nuclear-powered submarines are heading out into the Atlantic that are a threat to US security, threat to NATO security. That's more than 1,000 miles away. But the point that the Danes have been making is we can step up security as NATO in this Arctic region. Now, this is something that Mark Rutte was talking about yesterday, that there was a commonality of understanding here. And it seems that the President Trump is now on board with that messaging, that there's a commonality. It's a vast area. There's much that can be done. And remember, look, it was just a couple of days ago that NATO sent troops here to kind of uptick that security presence in the Arctic, to give an indication of how it could be done, to assess how it could be done. President Trump promptly threatened tariffs on those countries. Of course, now he's backtracked from that. But that's where we are. It seems that the narrative about what NATO can do has been there. Now President Trump seems to be buying into the idea of it. But how much does he still want Greenland out of that? Hard to imagine his reverse course so much in a couple of hours this afternoon from that big speech where he said he must have sovereignty, to where he is now saying it's a long-term deal. To Caitlin Collins' question, an infinitely long deal. He talked about he already has a deal, 1951 deal with Denmark about what the US can do in Greenland, which is pretty much whatever they want.
Nick, grateful. Thank you, sir. Nick Robertson in Nuuk. Now, President Trump's post left out the mention of sovereignty, Greenland sovereignty. It was a 4-second gap when Caitlin Collins did ask about him, and he had to think about the answer for that. Well, after the break, the Dutch Prime Minister thinks that the decision is up to Denmark. Dick Schoof, the Prime Minister, is next. Sahir Arazan is the hotelier and restaurateur extraordinaire. He's invited me to Machakizi, which is his boutique resort in Homer's wine-dark sea. A light snack for lunch. This all began as a rustic bed and breakfast started by his mother in the 1970s. The Queen of Spades, the Machakizi. That was his mother, holding court with a generation of jet-setters and passing on a love for seaside living in Bodrum.
That's where all the grey areas are, the Greek islands. That's going up like that is Aegean. It's a very clear weather here. It's very nice. All winter now. You get oxygened out.
Russian lines are just 1 kilometer from here.
This is just one of the latest buildings struck by Israel here in the southern suburbs of Beirut.
This is our town in Cisgalina. We're staying here. We know our soldiers are protecting us. In the end, a child is a child, says Nadra. The mother of a child is a mother, whether she's Israeli or Palestinian.
We try to be global and we try to be smart. But I want to hear our authentic voices of people who are passionate or intelligent, and that's the consistency that we try to get at.
Fareed Zakaria, GPS, Sundays on CNN.
Connect you with stories from around the globe. We're on the ground to follow the facts. We let diverse perspectives flow and ignite conversations that matter most to bring the world to you. Stay informed, stay connected, stay invested. From our studios in Abu Dhabi, join me for Connect the World with Becky Anderson.
Weekdays on CNN.
When you travel the world, make sure the world travels with you. Check in, log on, and get connected with all of the latest developments at your fingertips. CNN Partner Hotels, connected to your world.
I'm Becky Anderson at the Louvre, Abu Dhabi. This is CNN.
Hello, I'm Richard Quest. Together we'll have a lot more Quest Means Business. We'll be in Washington, where the Fed Chair Jay Powell and his predecessor Ben Bernanke were both at the Supreme Court hearing in support of the Governor Lisa Cook in her claim over her being fired by the President. The Dutch Prime Minister gives his reaction to President Trump's appearance here in Davos. We'll only get to that after the headlines because this is CNN. And of course, on this network, the news always comes first. President Trump says he has the framework of an infinite agreement on Greenland, one that would put an end to plans to enact new tariffs on nations opposed to the US acquisition of the island. Mr. Trump says he's formed a future deal after discussions with NATO Secretary General, and the Secretary General agrees that an agreement has been reached in principle. And according to Mr. Trump, the agreement gets us everything we needed. US lawmakers are recommending that Bill and Hillary Clinton be held in contempt of Congress. The former president and the First Lady had been called to testify in a congressional hearing into Jeffrey Epstein. They refused to comply with the subpoena. If the House of Representatives votes in favour, the case would then be referred to the Department of Justice. At least one person has died and 37 people are injured after a commuter train derailed in Catalonia in northwestern Spain on Tuesday. According to the regional government, the incident occurred after a retaining wall fell on the tracks. Of course, the significance, it follows 2 days after Spain's deadliest train crash in more than a decade. Two high-speed trains collided, killing 41 and injuring many. Take a look at the chart of today's Dow's performance and you'll see how the day progressed. That's the triple stack, with the best gains being on the Dow Jones Industrials, but the market, the Dow, jumped on President Trump's announcement of a framework for a future deal over Greenland. The Dow was up there, you see, and that's a nice, generous pop. It comes at 2:30 in the afternoon. It's just when we get the word of a framework. It means the close is at over 49,000. The day, of course, it follows the worst day since October, when tensions were briefly reignited with the Sell America trade, in which stocks and bond dollar and all fall to safe havens. Ronald Krasevsky, Chairman and CEO of Stifel Financial, he joins me now. What do you make of the markets and their ability? I mean, first of all, the whole idea of the Sell America trade.
Well, you know, there's a couple of aspects to this. Don't forget Japan. No one's talking about that and the increase in yields in Japan. But maybe let's not get caught up on that too much. But look, the market is sort of like what's been going on here in Davos. I mean, you're sitting here talking about how everything's going on. Can everyone believe it? You know, from where I come from, do you expect anything different? This is what Trump does. This is how he negotiates. This is how he gets things done. I'm not surprised at all.
Really?
Not at all. Not at all.
No. I understand this idea. Trump always backs down at the
I'm
end.
not saying that.
No. Although this is a negotiating strategy. Go maximalist, then come back to the compromise. But if that's the case here, we ended up where we could have ended up anyway.
Well, I don't know. We're ending up there, and everyone's all excited about it. But look, Trump will do in 2 days here what it takes usually 15 state dinners, and you move the needle 0.1%. He's a negotiator, and let's not get all that excited about this. The market, it was up today, but it only retraced 60% of the loss from yesterday. So there's some things going on. But look, and then I listen to all these speeches about how we're reordering the world order. Okay, now wait a minute. The world order in 1946 was that the U.S. would provide defense,
yes,
and the U.S. would protect the shipping lanes. That was the world order in 1946. We're talking about Greenland. Northern Greenland is security. Southern Greenland is the shipping lanes. The U.S. is doing what they've always done. They're supporting world trade by providing defense and protecting the shipping lanes.
So, in a sense, you're saying that more ado about nothing. A lot of noise is being made.
Well, a lot of noise is being made over what is in Europe's and the U.S. best interest.
Let's talk on markets generally at the moment. The strength of this rally, well, it's more than a rally that we've seen over the last year or so. Yeah. It's been, Donald Trump talked about it in his speech today. It is very deep and it's been very long-lasting. It is still very tech-focused, well, mainly tech-focused. Can that remain?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you saw Secretary Ludnick today was talking about potentially 6% GDP. Now that he might be a little optimistic here, as you and I are standing here, but no, the markets have been strong. We put in a big tax cut, immediate depreciation. The policies have been very strong.
That immediate depreciation is a good sugar rush.
Well, okay, it is a good sugar rush. It has our tax cut.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so
exactly.
I mean, I don't know if it's a sugar rush. I wouldn't say it that way. I think it's good economic policy to encourage investment.
Right.
Not a sugar rush. I mean,
what I mean is it's going to have an effect.
So did COVID $3,000 checks. I mean, they all of these things did. But come on.
Right. Join me over here, sir.
All right.
Join me over here. Have you really been the CEO since 1990?
I have it since 1997.
1997.
Can you believe that?
Yeah. Right. You must be doing something right.
That is true.
What gives you hope? Choose your colour.
I'm going to choose green. And it's going to be, you want me to write it down?
Yes, if you like to.
Because I don't know if I can spell, but you know what it is? It's humanity.
Oh, there we go. Don't worry about it. At this stage, nobody can read anything.
That's right. Okay. I mean, because we'll get through all this stuff. This is a great country, democracies, Western, but we need to relax. I mean, everyone gets so excited here. So just
chill and relax.
Chill and relax.
Thank
Okay,
you.
I should have wrote that down. Chill and relax.
Next time, so thank you.
All right, thank you. Thanks.
As we continue now, the Danish, chill and relax. That's a good idea. The Danish foreign minister posted on X a short time ago, the day is ending on a better note than it began. I spoke to the Dutch Prime Minister Dick Schoof before Donald Trump's announcement, which avoided the subject of Greenland's sovereignty.
Well, sovereignty is something that only Denmark can decide on, and sovereignty is one of the key issues in international law. So I think we should stick to sovereignty and share the interest on the security of the Arctic.
When we look at the speech, he was incredibly rude in many ways about Europe, about what he essentially says is Europe's freeloading on the United States, the way Europe has become too liberal, the way with the left. Right, you heard. It's nothing you haven't heard before, but it does show a very different view of the two sides.
Yeah, because we think otherwise. That's very clear, and of course we realized that we are in a different time and that we have to change as well. And for example, I look back to the Hague summit of the NATO before summer last year, where we decided that we go to 5%. I mean, that was also, I have to agree on the pressure of President Trump, but I think in the end we all agree that we have to step up. And the same thing is true for our economy and for a lot of other issues. So Europe has to create a strong foothold for itself.
Do you recognize any of the criticisms when he talks about immigration, imported workforces, nations that no longer look like they originally, the hijacking of countries?
Well, immigration is a big issue. It's in the Netherlands, it's in Europe, and we work very closely together, me, myself. For example, with George Maloney and with Mette Frederiksen, because they are very strict on migration, to see if we can step up Europe also in getting the immigration down, and particularly asylum. So, and I think we also have a migration pact, so we're working very hard on that. It's a big difference for, say, 5 or 6 years ago. So we're working very hard on this issue because it is a societal issue, it's a political issue.
Right, and do you fear that enough has now been done to stop a further shift to the right?
That's an interesting question. I'm a prime minister of a right-wing cabinet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're the prime.
Yeah.
Right. But there's a very fine line between being the prime minister of a right-wing cabinet and going over the edge.
Yeah, but I think
that is always the risk.
Yeah, but I think the most important thing is that we really address issues that relate to our society. And asylum and migration is an issue that we have to relate on because of our citizens. And the way we do it is important. And of course we try to stick to all the laws, but we have to stop illegal migration to Europe, and that's where we are very strong on.
How did Europe Europe managed to get itself into this mess?
We are not getting into a mess. We have a problem, and we're trying to deal with it. And I think that for a long time that we thought that we were like secure and peaceful, and we didn't realize what Russia was doing and that the world was changing. So we also maybe underestimated the influx of people and what it would do to our societies.
It's a very fine line, isn't it, between that acceptability of recognition that something's gone wrong and going too far so it becomes racist. It's a fine line.
Yeah, I mean, you're an interesting way of putting things. But let me say this. I mean, in Europe, we still think that people that are really seeking refugee, we should give shelter. But what we see is that a lot of people use this asylum system for a lot of reasons, for a better life, which is we could recognize it, but it's not acceptable in the system because we have to look in the way that our society still can take it in.
Come to the board with me, sir. Come to the board. What gives you hope?
Let's see, here's some space. Cooperation.
Oh, that's a good one. We need more of that. As we continue tonight, the US Supreme Court has been hearing arguments in the politically charged case over President Trump's ability to fire a Fed governor. Now, amongst those in the newsroom was the current Fed chair himself.
In the hub, where East meets West, CNN Arabic is perfectly placed to find the facts. This is where stories happen.
It's a concern to a lot of us in the region.
Politics, business, culture, real life. As the pace of change moves faster, we ask the important question. What is the truth? This is CNNArabic.com.
Every day we take a step back to look at the big picture. From decisions made in Washington to the ripple effects across Asia, Europe, and beyond. We follow the story as it unfolds and hear every voice to make sure the information is clear, fair, and relevant to you. In a world packed with noise, facts matter. That's what we do here. This is The Brief.
Caitlin Collins is your DC source, bringing you unprecedented access to the White House.
We're live from the center of the political universe,
Capitol Hill.
My Democratic source tonight is Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren. If you don't get what you need from Congress, can you achieve what you're trying to achieve?
And beyond.
We're live on the ground in Israel tonight about the Gazans leaving. Where exactly are they should go?
Follow Caitlin for in-depth political coverage and analysis, and watch her on The Source, Tuesday through Saturday on CNN.
The biggest trends, the latest business ventures, and the boldest investments pushing the continent forward.
We're all required to build a better Africa.
Who will see profits? What opportunities will come? Where will growth take shape?
We've positioned ourselves within the community that we want to empower.
And how will it all impact the global economy?
We want to provide people with opportunities for them to be their best, to build meaningful careers.
Join me, Zain Asher, on Marketplace Africa.
This weekend on CNN.
Powerful nations have discussed what to do about Russia, what to do about the war in Ukraine.
Homes here were shattered in an instant. This is one of the main streets here in the camp, and it's been turned to mud. Protesters throw rocks, sticks over this border fence. They've seen Israeli troops on the other side, and we've heard what appears to be the sound of gunfire.
This is a humanitarian crisis that they have to address.
Oh, yodeling along. Can't go wrong with a bit of that. The US Supreme Court. Lovely day. The US Supreme Court is signalling doubt over President Trump's power to immediately fire a Fed governor. Mr. Trump has claimed he can fire Lisa Cook for cause. He's accused her of mortgage fraud. She denies doing anything wrong and says she was never given a chance to defend herself. During Wednesday's hearing, both Conservative and Liberal justices questioned the President's effort to meddle with the central bank's leadership and independence. In attendance at the court, there was the Fed Chair Jerome Powell. He's under investigation by the US Justice Department in a separate matter. Joan Biskupic joins me now. Now, Joan, this is interesting, isn't it? Because we already had a vision of this when they talked about firing people before. The Supreme Court had pretty much made clear they regarded the Fed as sui generis because of the significance to the economy. It seems to be they're going in Lisa Cook's favour.
That's absolutely right, Richard. And it's interesting you talked about Jerome Powell being there. Lisa Cook was also there in the courtroom today. And the Fed definitely is being treated differently. We can say that right away, that the court had a regard for its independence, for its integrity, and that shadowed much of this dispute. But what it comes down to is you referred to that misconduct that they're alleging, and that he is claiming, President Trump is claiming he has proper cause to do it. And so there was a lot focused on exactly what does for cause mean? How serious does it have to be? And more importantly, in her case, what kind of notice and chance for a hearing was she given? And the sense from the justices was that, something unfair had happened here. As you probably remember, Donald Trump tried to fire Lisa Cook through a Truth Social post, gave her no chance for a hearing, which the justices referred to a lot, and that got them. So did just what the Fed represents in America. Justice Amy Coney Barrett talked about how some of the amicus briefs that have come in have said that if you let the president remove one of the Fed governors in this kind of manner, that could cause a recession because it would obviously undercut the Fed's independence. Go ahead, Richard.
Joan, do you think there's, when I say the word frightened, I don't mean sort of literally frightened, but do you think that the Supremes are aware and frightened that you really don't want to meddle with the Fed, because if you do, the consequences for your economy could be out of all proportion to the point that's being made here?
I think that's a perfectly legitimate question to ask in this case, and I think the word frightened isn't too far off. They are risk-averse people themselves, and they have been warned about what could happen if the world economy thinks that our somehow is being compromised and being pressured by the president. They do not want that, and they do not want to be part of that.
Joan, good to see you. I'm grateful, as always, making sense of what's happening in the Supreme Court. Thank you. And when we continue here in Davos, how the turmoil is impacting European consumers, the Chief Executive of Carlsberg, well, we'll have a drink to that, if he's brought anything along. Anyway, he'll be with us after the break. Question business.
Time to bring harmony back to the forest. Please join us. Save the tigers.
Weekdays on CNN.
Tonight on 360.
The stories that matter.
This whole area is just engulfed in flames.
From a trusted voice.
We witnessed something nobody alive has ever seen before. You said that AI could wipe out half of all entry-level jobs. How soon might that happen?
A fearless eyewitness.
We've just gotten a red alert to go down to the bomb shelter.
Every night makes sense of the world.
How do you make the case that USAID's previous mission was in the United States' national interest?
Anderson Cooper 360. Weekdays on CNN.
We're keeping it low here because we've been told the truth is might be able to see us.
We are aware that we're abandoned.
When the settlers are here and threatening you, what's going through your mind?
I can't explain it.
We all just want to take our territory back.
Nothing will bring us back what we lost.
It's a wheel of genocide, he says. This is what liberation looks like.
Amazing.
I know your thought. Oh, look at that! That's rather jolly, isn't it? I'm not. It's a nice sculpture. Looking forward to warmer days here at Davos. An ice sculpture in the shape of the FIFA World Cup. That's rather jolly, isn't it? I wonder how long it'll take before it'll melt. Tariffs, threats, geopolitical uncertainty, it's all weighing on European business leaders. Carlsberg's chief exec is trying to weather this climate at the same time as customers are moderating their alcohol intake. Jacob Aarup-Andersen is the Carlsberg Group CEO. Good to see you, sir. I'm grateful.
Good to see you.
A Danish company.
Yes.
Good Danish company. How are you viewing these matters? Greenland and so forth. Tonight, of course, there does seem to have been some major developments on that regard.
It seems to have been a relatively eventful 5 to 6 hours we've just been through. As a major global Danish business, I have to say we leave politics to the politicians. But of course, as a business that operates all over the world, I need to deal with the uncertainty that follows these developments. And that's what we are spending our time on. I'm not sitting there orchestrating solutions for the matter at hand, but we are focusing on making sure that we're resilient and we can play both offense and defense in these situations.
Right, but what is the risk here in terms of the business?
For our business, if you look at the current environment around tariffs and the geopolitical uncertainty, tariffs directly is not an impact on us. So we have a very small US business, so no direct impact from that. It's more the fact that it's hitting consumer confidence. So if you look at the last 12 months, consumer confidence globally has been hit by this turmoil.
Yeah, but here, when it comes to alcoholic beverages, I've never been sure, whether they are recession resistant at one level. Because people still, maybe they don't buy as much and they trade down from premium brands to lesser brands. I perish the thought. But people do still like to have a bevy.
They do, and especially on a day like today, I think, after everything we've heard. There's no doubt when you look at beer, it's a very resilient category.
Right.
You look at many consumer goods categories, this is a very resilient category, and we're seeing that over the last couple of years as well. Of course, cyclicality is also hitting us. Consumer goods is being hit by cyclicality over the last couple of years due to this cost of living crisis we're seeing in many countries, but it's a very stable and resilient category.
So how do you grow the business? Carlsberg is amongst consumer products, one of the most mature businesses, and you can go into other liquors and you can go into other areas and other drinks, but essentially you want to push it at the premium scale.
Yeah, so listen, we're on quite a significant journey at the moment.
Right.
So over the last couple of years, we've been also changing the growth vectors in the business. So if you look at mainstream beer, you referred to a second ago, for the first year and 178 years, that's less than half of our business. So we've been focusing a lot on premium, a lot on alcohol-free and moderation.
This alcohol.
Very happy to, yeah.
I don't drink alcohol, and I often feel that my selections when I go into the pub are either some overly sweet mocktail, or sparkling water, which I can live with.
Glad to hear that. Listen, we can offer something different.
Can you?
No doubt about the fact that alcohol-free beer as a category is developing massively. So we've launched more than 60 different alcohol-free brews over the last 3 years.
Right.
And there's an amazing innovation happening there, not just from us, but for the entire industry.
And it's not considered as a second-class product.
Listen, Richard, it used to be, if you go back 10, 15 years, there's absolutely no doubt that that non-alcoholic beer was viewed as a secondary product. Today it's a category in itself.
Really?
You see a lot of people that this is the first choice when they walk into that pub you walk into. And I have to say the taste profile, the sensation you get, it's amazing.
Choose your colour.
Well, it isn't Carlsberg Green, of course.
Oh,
yeah.
silly me, silly me. All right, what gives you hope, sir?
Well, I can tell you what gives me hope.
Well, a drink.
As always, beer. And you know why I write that? I write that because the social effect that we create, the moments we create with beer, at this stage in the world with all the geopolitical uncertainty, I think we need a beer once in a while.
I am grateful to you, sir. Thank you very
so
much.
much.
Profitable moment
Thank
after
you.
the break.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Did the re-election of Donald Trump play any role in your decision to resign? Why do you need to study it? It sounds like you have the facts on your fingertips.
Great question.
You continue to fight for your name to be cleared. Why? Do you have any concerns about Elon Musk?
There really is much more that unites us as Americans than that which divides us.
A moment with huge consequences for the nation and the world.
Watch The Lead, weeknights on CNN.
CNN World Sport.
Non-stop action year-round. I have a lot of things to give to the football. All the major events.
I love where the game is going right now.
What does it take for me to be even better?
And tournaments.
The emotions sometimes are impossible to control. The latest highlights.
Women's sport is having a moment that it should have always had.
And exclusive interviews with your favorite coaches and players.
We're going to keep this thing rolling.
You rock. Don't miss CNN
World Sport, only on CNN.
Caitlin Collins is your DC source, bringing you unprecedented access to the White House.
We're live from the center of the political universe.
Capitol Hill.
My Democratic source tonight is Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren. If you don't get what you need from Congress, can you achieve what you're trying to achieve?
And beyond.
We're live on the ground in Israel tonight about the Gazans leaving. Where exactly are you suggesting that they should go?
Follow Caitlin for in-depth political coverage and analysis, and watch her on The Source, Tuesday through Saturday on CNN.
We understand there is intense firefights ongoing. Rafah is very close. But in Kim Jong-un, you have a leader who's given a 5-year plan. How do you convince him to talk? It took some time to realize they had come to rescue him.
But it's a roller coaster of emotions.
I'm Cecilia Dominguez in Buenos Aires, and this is CNN.
Tonight's profitable moment. Well, what a last few hours we have had here in Davos. There's always an energy at the World Economic Forum. You know, there really is. There's always an energy. But the anticipation that we had with President Trump's arrival here in Switzerland, the whole business overnight of his plane turning back and then having to get another aircraft to come over here, and then the speech, which was just extraordinary in the way people were cheering the fact he'd said no to force, but then were horrified by many of the comments that he made concerning insulting allies and mocking friends. And then the Truth Social post said a framework had been done. Mark Rutte, who I found in the corridors, on the phone, talking all about it. This is what Davos is really all about. I have no idea what it will finally look like, what this framework, whether it will be acceptable to other NATO allies. I'm guessing it will be, because Mark Rutte is already involved in it. But I do know that when you put it all together, great progress was made today. People are going home tonight feeling a lot more peaceful about what's gone on, a little more cheerful, and arguably, sir, feeling it was well worth coming up the mountain. Oh, yeah, they are. And that's got his business for tonight. I'm Richard Quest in Davos. Whatever you're up to in the hours ahead, I hope it's profitable. I'll see you tomorrow.
Show.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Welcome to the lead. I'm Dick Tapper. We're going to start with breaking news in our world lead. Hours after delivering a speech at Davos that was received as warmly as the frigid Swiss air, President Trump now claims he's one step closer to his goal of the U.S. acquiring